Hello, today I'm going to discuss a commonly asked question. Do I need a degree to teach in Thailand? I taught in southern Thailand in Pattaya for about 1 year in 2018, and then I taught in China up until the pandemic. So I feel like I have a fair bit of knowledge about this issue. Um, just a quick disclaimer is I am fully qualified to teach ESL. I do have a bachelor's degree and I do have a teaching certificate. Um, so I did it the conventional way, but the dynamics at play sort of indicate there's so many students and so much demand that they can never fully fill all the positions in those places without having to hire staff or hire teachers who don't follow the conventional pathway. So the question shouldn't really be, do I need a degree to teach in Thailand? Because, obviously people go over there and they don't have tertiary education, and don't have a background in tertiary education, and they still find work. That's not the question. That's not the issue. And you constantly hear this, like, oh, will I get a job? There's just thousands of jobs there. That's not the issue. It's should you work without a degree? That is the real thing to consider, because you want to have a good quality experience there. You don't want to be going there, ending up broke, ending up getting abused, ending up getting embarrassed. So they're the things I'm going to talk about. I have got 6 points, and you'll hear my opinion, and I'll summarize my overall point of view at the end of this video. So point number one is you'll most likely be working on a tourist visa if you can't get a work permit. So for most schools, you do need a degree to get a work permit. However, some schools you can get one as a teaching assistant. So you wouldn't be classified as an actual teacher, but you'd be at the school and probably be teaching classes. So there's not a whole lot of difference in the actual position. But not all schools offer these kinds of jobs as teaching assistants. Usually they want someone who follows the legitimate pathway, and someone who's willing to take the responsibility, and someone who does have some academic background. So if you work on a tourist visa, which is what will happen most likely if you don't have a degree, you would have to go to places like Laos or Cambodia and do a border run. You might even have to fly now. I'm not sure what the rules are like right now, but when I was there in 2018 and 2019, you had to do a bus trip, or that was the common way. People did a 12-hour bus trip, and then they renewed their tourist visa for an extra 90 days each time they did the bus trip. So that cost 7,000 baht to do that bus trip, and I only had to do it once to get my non-B visa, and then I was okay for 12 months. But if you have a tourist visa, you're going to have to do that bus trip. You're going to have to do that every 90 days and pay that 7,000 baht, and your salary will probably be 30,000 baht at a rough guess. So 7,000 is a fairly big chunk to take out of your monthly income, and it's very inconvenient, and you really don't want to be doing that bus trip all the time. So that's the first point. That's a disincentive to teaching in Thailand without a degree. The second point is, if you can't get a work permit, they won't give you a contract at the school you work at. So they can abuse you in whatever way they see fit. They can reduce your salary, they can take away your holidays, they can give you extra stuff to do. So you will end up with a set of conditions that are inferior to the other staff who have followed the normal pathway. So that often creates a toxic or a resentful atmosphere between the staff members too, and it just tends to snowball because two people doing the exact same job and one person getting all this money and getting treated well and the other person getting abused and getting much less income, you're going to get resentment, envy, jealousy, a lot of toxic feelings start to brew up in that kind of environment. Okay, number three, you have more lucrative options in other countries where you can work legitimately without a degree. So you can work in Cambodia, for example, in Phnom Penh, the capital, without a degree, with just a teaching certificate, and you can probably earn just as much, and you're following the legitimate pathway. You can probably get work in Vietnam. Like there's just so many positions there. I think they might have changed that rule now. I think you might need a bachelor's degree now to work there, although I'm not 100% sure. I haven't been to Vietnam since 2000. I think it was the very start of 2018 was the last time I was there. And I just don't have as much interest in Vietnam. But there's lots of highly lucrative jobs there if you compare it to Thailand, that are more likely for you to get without a degree. So that's the point. And point number four, if you do have a tertiary background, you're going to realistically handle teaching high school kids and kids who are about to go to university much better than someone who's never set foot in a university. I'm sure if you've got a bachelor's degree, you've spent hours and hours and hours and hours slaving over assignments, essays, you've delivered presentations and seminars. You're going to have a way bigger background in terms of communication skills than someone who's has dropped out of high school or something. So I've seen this happen before where the teachers in some of these schools believe that they're superior because they've got some work experience or they did some tutoring for a while. But when it comes to teaching 16-year-old kids some complex information, they can't do it, and they have to fall back on other teachers who do have the credentials. So just having work experience on its own doesn't always work, and that whole notion of that they're superior just for having some experience, it doesn't always ring true. It's better to have a combination of both an academic background and work experience, not just one, not just the other. All right. So you won't get embarrassed. You're much less likely to get in embarrassing situations if you do have an academic background. So point number five is if you do try and teach in Thailand without a degree, obviously you're not following the conventional pathway. So when they do carry out systematic raids on schools, you're putting yourself in a very vulnerable situation. It is pretty unlikely that you would encounter problems, but people get made an example of there. So you don't want to be that person who's made an example of. Pardon. And point number six is if you don't have a degree, the range of opportunities for you just continually are diminishing. So yes, there are a lot of positions, but they're all base layer stuff, lowball type jobs where you might work at a public school part-time, or do some stuff in a kindergarten or a training center that doesn't pay that well. You'll be in an endless predicament where your choices are increasingly limited. So you don't want to put yourself in that situation, especially if you want to be there for more than a year or more than a few months. You want to allow yourself a chance to enhance your salary. You want to improve your positions each time. You don't want to just get stagnant and accept really average to below average positions simply because of your lack of academic background. You want to have better opportunities each time. You want to improve yourself and enhance and evolve and get more benefits out of the experience, not just get abused and get stuck. And that's a big problem. So I'll just run through those 6 points again. So how long are we now? 10 minutes. So this is about as long as I want it. So here's the 6 points. You won't be able to get your 12-month visa. You'll be on a tourist visa, and you'll have to do the bus runs back and forth. That's the first disincentive. You won't get a contract, and you'll most likely get abused a lower range of incentives. So that's number 2. Number 3, there are more lucrative options in other countries where you can work legitimately without a bachelor's degree. Number 4, if you have a degree, you can more effectively teach high school students or students that are about to go to university, seeing as though you've been there, if you have one. And number 5, it's illegal, so you would encounter problems if the police carried out raids on the schools. And number 6, you'll be forced into an endless predicament where your choices just are limited. So they're the 6 reasons why I don't think it's the best idea. So the question isn't, do I need a degree to get in Thailand? Are there jobs? No, those questions are irrelevant. They don't matter because we all know that the answer is yes. And I think people just ask them to get to satisfy their own idea that they're going already, and they're like they just want to be told what they want to hear. But the real question is, should I do this? And that's what I want you to think about. If you haven't been there, you've got no teaching experience or very little experience, and you don't have a bachelor's degree, just think carefully about these 6 points I've raised.